If you visited the Evansville waterfront lately, you may have noticed a new attraction, the Sunset Pump Station. We'll learn more about the pump station and its amenities. That's next on WNIN Newsmakers. Here to tell us more about the Sunset Pump Station is Lane Young, Executive Director of the Evansville Water Sewer Utility. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. I appreciate you having me.
Now, in a few minutes, we're going to watch the short film about the new pump station, but maybe you could explain to us why there is a new pump station.
Sure. Well, back about 10, 12 years ago now, Evansville had their turn for the Clean Water Act and what's called a consent decree to solve combined sewer overflows. 2/3 of our sewer system is combined. That means that when the city was developed, first stormwater pipes went under the ground, and so rainwater and runoff and control flooding. Then sanitary sewers developed, right? People got in-home plumbing. Well, they decided to use the same pipes, which is fine because they were big enough. But when a rain event happens, you get stormwater mixed with sanitary sewer, and now you have sewage, diluted sewage, that's going somewhere. Well, they didn't want it to back up into pipes, and so when they did this, they created these outfalls, right? So that when the pipes get full, they flow out of the pipe into clean water. So in our case, the Ohio River and Pigeon Creek are the places where we have outfalls. Well, the Clean Water Act of 1970 said you're no longer going to do those things. And so that was the problem. So we had to solve those problems. And one of the ways to do that was to create our treatment plants, which take our sewage, make those larger so the pipes don't fill up as fast, right? So we had to increase the capacity of our treatment plant. Well, we had to find a place to put it close to the river, close to the plant. And we found that the best spot was where the former Sunset Park was. And so we knew we needed to do it, build it there, but we didn't want to take away an amenity of the cities without maybe making it a little bit better, and that's what we did.
So, but before there was the pump station, but it was just at the same place. It wasn't like it is now, obviously.
That's exactly right. Yeah, it was at our treatment plant, but it was a much smaller pump station, and so when we had to expand the footprint of the plant, we didn't have any space for the pump station.
Okay. Well, we're going to watch a short documentary about the pump station, and then you'll be here afterwards for some follow-up questions.
Sure.
Water is life. Where there is water, there is life.
The river is our source of water. So we not only depend on it daily, we're historically tied to the river. It's why we're here.
You know, we are a river city.
So as a river city, I think this project is just a natural connection.
If I could use one word to sum up this project or the suite of projects that is the effluent pump station, I would say opportunity.
It is really creating an additional sense of energy in a part of our downtown that did not exist before. We'll be returning treated water back into the Ohio River cleaner than how we took it in, and that benefits everyone. Certainly it benefits our region and it benefits the environment. This is not just a utility setting, this is actually, we think, a destination.
The planning around the pump station first began with the development of the consent decree solution as a whole. You know, the consent decree laid out things that we have to do. We have to improve the water quality. We have to reduce the amount of untreated combination sewer overflow that we release to Pigeon Creek and the Ohio River. Our effluent would dump into Beast Slough, and then it would either drain out by gravity to the Ohio or be pumped into the Ohio by the levee authority. And just over time, us adding up to 26 million gallons a day into Beast Slough just created a septic and a stagnant condition, a health issue with Beast Slough itself, because in addition to our effluent, there was also combination sewer overflow.
One of the things that we have to fight, being a river city and being right here close to the river, and the Beast Slough issue is when the river is high, we have to close the gates for a flood purpose. So the levee and what was built to protect us from the river flooding also is an impediment to us getting that used water, once it's cleaned, back into the river.
The effluent pump station, the intent of that is to move that 40 million gallons of treated effluent from the East Wastewater Treatment Plant to the river.
When we began talks with US EPA several years ago now about what our consent decree would look like, we didn't know what all the components were going to be that would be included in that plan. I think what makes me most excited about the new Sunrise Pump Station is the fact it takes the Evansville water and sewer utility to a whole new level.
The idea to have an effluent pump station was put into the project set back in 2011. The project as we see it today, though, really started taking shape in the 2016-2017 timeframe. When we started envisioning what the effluent pump station should be, we had outreach to several different agencies. Through Leadership Evansville, we had a neighborhood meeting at the park to seek input from folks that were actually using the park. Site selection for the pump station was pretty straightforward. We knew we had to take the water from the East Wastewater Treatment Plant from a spot and pump it over the levee out into the river. And the old Kids Kingdom playground was really that space. So we really wanted to honor the history of the space that we were going to occupy. The effluent pump station, when it was site located in Sunrise Park, it just felt appropriate to name that pump station Sunrise Pump Station. You know, there used to be a difference between Sunrise and Sunset Park, and that demarcation, I think, was Waterworks Road. So part of this project also relocated Waterworks Road. There really was no demarcation anymore between the two parks. I think the majority of Sunset Park still exists, so Sunrise Pump Station seemed appropriate. It became very apparent that we needed to replace that park that was liked so much by so many before we even decided to start construction of the pump station. So Kids Kingdom, I think at the time, was the #2 park most visited by folks in Evansville. So it was very sensitive to those who built it, the volunteers, as well as those who used it. That was really kind of the birth of Mickey's Kingdom. So I often refer to Mickey's Kingdom as my favorite sewer project because it did start as a result of a sewer project. The folks who were instrumental in organizing the original build of Kids Kingdom were also leaders and organizers and instrumental towards the building of Mickey's Kingdom. It was just fabulous. So it was a wonderful build. You know, at the time it became a community effort that I think topped out at $1.8 million of donation. This enormous, 10-day playground build with over 3,000 people taking part in constructing Mickey's Kingdom. At the time of its opening, it's my understanding the Mickey's Kingdom was the largest all-abilities playground in the Midwest. Up to 40 million gallons per day as a rate, that's a lot of water. So we had to make sure we knew how the water was going to behave coming into the pump station, and equally as important, how it was going to behave when it was pumped out into the cascade and allowed to free fall down a stair-like contraption to get to the Ohio River. So we chose to have our design engineer engage some real modeling out of Clemson Hydraulics down in South Carolina.
When you're into large pump stations like this, we strongly recommend always going to modeling. For the simple reason is it lets you see how the model is actually going to let you see how the plant's going to work when it's completed. We actually made several changes as a result of that modeling to help improve how the plant would operate once it was completed.
The utility chose the Donahue and Associates team to do the design of the effluent pump station and all the surrounding amenities. And it was with that selection that really the project really started to take shape. So they took the preliminary design concepts and they built models so that we could better understand how the water would react. They put dye in the water so they could watch the movement. They could trace the water and how it flowed into the wet wells and through the pumps themselves. They were looking for something called vortexes. They were looking for places where the pumps might have been cavitating. When air gets trapped in a pump, it should be water. So when air gets trapped in there, that's really kind of what causes damage to a pump long term. So we were looking for ways to eliminate the cavitation. The Army Corps of Engineers is a very important agency to coordinate with, especially when you're working down and around the levees. Their prime charge in Evansville is to protect Evansville from the Ohio River during times of flood. Coordinating with them on how we were going to get around or through or under the levee, we knew going into it was going to be a very important component of this project. When the Donahue team proposed going up and over the levee, we were very excited about that.
You've got this clean water and we're pumping it up and over into the river, and we're actually improving the water quality of it as it's going into the river too, because it's actually using cascade and it's adding oxygen to it. When we approached the project, we tried to look at something to differentiate us from what everybody else was proposing. We came up with a concept, and it was a team concept. Instead of trying to go through the levee or underneath the levee, let's pop up and over and make it something that's beneficial also, that can actually aerate the water, create a water attraction along the walkway there on top of the levee, and to add something more to Evansville rather than just another industrial municipal public structure. It's actually something that benefits the public.
It did help in facilitating a solution that the Corps was more comfortable with. So we still had permitting that was required to construct the cascade on the river side of the levee. There was still permitting that was required to build the overlook that sits on top of the levee, as well as the installation of additional fill-in material that's on the city side of the levee. So they reviewed and evaluated those proposals very closely, just to protect their core mission and protect the city of Evansville.
The reason we do that is because the Evansville levee is in a program that will essentially rebuild or reconstruct the levee if it's ever damaged by a flood. Like most levee embankments, in this particular project, we're looking for anything that would potentially cause a seepage issue. In other words, where floodwater may be allowed to seep through the levee. We're looking for stability issues. I'm standing on top of a cascade structure, a large concrete structure placed on top of the levee, and that's not too typical for us. So the issue here is that we maintain stability in the embankment. And then finally, erosion. We want to ensure that any construction here won't cause erosion to the levee. The most challenging aspect was to figure out how to anchor the cascade so that it doesn't slide down the slope into the river, and at the same time it doesn't compress the levee embankment. We typically would pump effluent through a levee and not up and over, although up and over is certainly acceptable. That's a lot of weight to put on a levee embankment. In part to offset that weight, we have used what we call a geofoam, offering strength but relatively little weight compared to soil.
As we drain the cascade into the river, we used some new products, for erosion protection to make sure the cascade is good for generations to come. Our regulatory division became involved in the project. Its mission is to protect the waterways of the U.S., and so anything constructed near a river is something they're concerned about.
The Indiana Department of Natural Resources also goes hand in hand with that. They wanted to assure that by building our cascade outfall down the levee that we weren't causing any issues with the wildlife walking on the levee. We dealt with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, the Indiana Department of Natural Resources, the Indiana Department of Environmental Management. So it was ongoing. It took quite a bit of coordination. We wanted to make sure we were providing good value to the citizens of Evansville.
The pump station you see behind me, plus the cascade, the overlook, the parking lot, the entire property consists of 10.91 acres. The pump station itself is approximately 45,000 square feet, which has our sewer laboratory inside it, which takes up approximately 8,000 square feet. We have approximately 14,000 square feet of public space.
The pump station goes about 40 feet into the ground below what you see on the surface today.
I think one of the most unique things about the pump station, to me personally, is how deep it goes. It goes more than 40 feet underground. It basically gets to the bed level of the river. So imagine in your mind's eye how deep the Ohio River is and where that bed is. That's how deep this pump station is, and that's where those pumps are.
Two of the challenges the contractor ran into when digging the pump station was we encountered unsuitable soils. Back in the late 1800s, before we had a levee system, the river was much wider and people would drive over to the edge of the embankment and dump their burn barrel trash. They didn't have a specific landfill to take it to. So we dug into that layer of landfill material here and we had to haul it away. The other challenge was just fighting the groundwater. With the rise and fall of the Ohio River, the area would get saturated, and they had several dewatering pumps here pumping water at a tremendous rate early on in the project.
There's so many neat things about this project. It's really one of the utility's first mixes of public and utility space. So we certainly wanted to fit in, and we wanted to add to the excitement of the downtown. So, we added the lobby space. We're hoping that in the future we can partner with someone who can manage that space as an educational component to promote science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. There'll be windows into the workspace of the utility. That will be the new location of our wastewater testing laboratory. So all the water quality testing we do to ensure that we're delivering safe water back out to the river will all be done there. That's part of the consent decree and part of our daily permitting with the Indiana Department of Environmental Management. We've been able to add space in the building itself for a police substation so that police can make more of a community presence there on the Greenway. We added parking. We will have added 167 parking spaces, for example, so people can come and enjoy the downtown, and it could all really start at the Sunrise Pump Station. We're creating a new trailhead with just the parking lots that are required. We're bringing the Greenway down off the levee and around the building so that our parking lot can serve as a safe trailhead to get up on the Greenway. So we have seasonal bathrooms at Mickey's Kingdom. We also are going to have year-round bathrooms at the effluent pump station, all that will be accessible to the public.
We've also added just some benches. There's swings up on top that you'll be able to sit on the river and look out and see. So we wanted to make sure we incorporated the river and provide a place for people to enjoy the scenery.
The rooftop of the effluent pump station building is probably the best view of the whole project. You can see the whole river bend from the rooftop. It's pretty amazing to look to your left and then you'll see past the water filter plant, which is beautiful in and of itself. Architecture from the early 1900s. And then pan to the right and you see the Cascade, then you see Mickey's Kingdom, you see downtown Evansville. It really is just a beautiful landscape that you can see from up there. There'll be educational rain gardens so we can kind of tell the story of green infrastructure, not only here, but 1.5 to 2 dozen applications of green infrastructure that we've partnered with different agencies over the past couple years, all in an effort to reduce combination sewer overflow. Part of the Cass Adams project, which also included the construction of the retaining wall on the other side of the Veterans Memorial Parkway, we added inlets during that project into B Slough itself. So not only can we pump our effluent into the Ohio, we can also open inlets when we have capacity on B Slough itself. In addition, we can drain that sewage, that overflow, back through the treatment plant, treat it, then move it through our own effluent pump station, and then also out in the Ohio River. With these two projects, we're able to stop adding to the volume of B Slough and clean it up faster and quicker than it's ever been cleaned up before.
This is an opportunity for Evansville to take a structure that has a purpose and it's solving a problem, but to do it in a way that's unique and do it in a way that invites others in. Do it in a way that brings beauty with functionality. We have a great resource, a great asset in the Ohio River. And we look at this project as one that will help people see the beauty of the river.
We are a river city, so there's so many ways we can educate future technical kind of folks that are growing up in Evansville right now, all things water. The educational opportunities here for science and technology, engineering, math, teaching tools or education about how this place was built, why it works, how we protect ourselves from not only the Ohio River as a neighbor, but also from our water, our combination sewer overflows that come from our community out into the Ohio. Part of this includes moving the wastewater laboratories from their current location in Allen's Lane down to this building.
So we're putting our lab staff in this brand new laboratory. People will be able to see kind of what goes into treating water.
Sunrise Pump Station is part of an overall destination. with the opening of Mickey's Kingdom just a few hundred feet away to this is all connected green space.
It's a place where we've incorporated a whole spectrum of ideas on ways that people can enjoy water.
Arguably, water is the most important resource we have besides air.
Water is life. Where there is water, there is life.
We hope that we'll be able to help our citizens understand the importance of water and how we need to be good stewards of water.
While we can come up here and stand by the second largest river on the entire continent in the Ohio River, we're more than 1 billion gallons in a minute pass by regularly. We don't hear any water as it's going by at such a high rate. So the cascade will provide the sound of rushing water, and you'll be able to go out to the overlook and hear it and see it and enjoy it. So that's definitely a great feature of this project.
And I sense the community will be exceptionally proud of this. One, because it represents a commitment to the US EPA and to IDEM, all of our partner agencies, that we're committed to improving our underground infrastructure. So it's a commitment to that, but it's also a commitment to the community that we can do more, that it can be recreational, it can be educational, and of course, utilitarian for our city.
Evansville was founded because it's on the river. With the construction of the levee in '37, we kind of dislocated ourselves from the river. To protect ourselves, we removed ourselves. That connectivity is important to continue on. So one of the things the effluent pump station does, and all the amenities that come with it, is it kind of reconnects. It helps to connect and revitalize the downtown recreational area and helps to reconnect folks with the river.
People come down here just to sit and watch that sunset. There's something calming as you see the sun go down and you see it over the river and you see how the light will hit different ways. And there's this reality that while we live in a local place, we are tied to a much bigger reality that is Earth. And we get to see this thing that happens every day. The sun rises and it sets, water flows by every day, and you get this reality. You're part of something bigger, and really recognize what an asset the Ohio River is to our community.
Lane Young with the Evansville Water Sewer Utility is with us to answer more questions about the Sunset Pump Station project. Thank you again for staying with us. Why exactly did they make this nice pump station, where people might actually want to go visit?
Well, as we were looking for a spot, we knew that the riverfront area was probably going to be the best place. And that's a precious real estate for our city. And we did not want to just put a utilitarian building there, kind of gray and unattractive and behind a fence. So we decided, after getting input from the community, to build the pump station the way we did and have a space that the public can come and use and see what we do. Part of our challenge as a utility is the public largely doesn't understand the infrastructure that it takes to get them to be able to turn on their faucet and flush their toilet.
Right.
And so this was one that would allow them to see kind of a little bit of what we do.
So was this pump station modeled after any others in the country, or how was this
That's a great question. I don't believe so. I think that we had a local architect and team that designed it and kind of said, well, what can we do to make this space enjoyable? I am not aware of any other pump stations like this across the country.
So it is open to the public now, correct?
Correct.
And what kind of hours does it have?
So it's open from 8 to 4 every day, every day, Sunday through Saturday.
But that's as far as going inside. And
Correct.
So if they go inside, they can use the restrooms, they can...
That's right. We have restrooms available. Both those are accessible from the inside of the building and outside, and so those are open during that time. You can go upstairs, and there's a second floor observation where you really get a great look at our city, kind of at a vantage point looking back. You got the river, and then you can see the downtown area, and it's really a nice space.
I've been down there, but I hadn't been inside. And so I haven't been upstairs yet, but I'm kind of excited to see that. And I noticed the nice swings that they have down there, and I assume people are already taking advantage of those.
People are there every day, all throughout the day, and we're thrilled, because that's really why we designed it.
Now, what about, I think it's going to be available for rentals and for events?
That is correct. We built it out in such a way that people can use it. So there's a catering kitchen in there, so we don't have a full cooking kitchen, but if you have a caterer and you want to cater an event, in fact, that's happened. The police, the National Police Information Officers Association, I'm not sure if that's their proper name, but that's basically who they were. They had an event there for us. So all kinds of public information officers from across the country. They were from Hawaii, New York, LA, all came, and they had a conference here in Evansville, and they hosted an evening event.
Now, why do you think, it almost sounds funny to go, well, I'm going to have our wedding or what reception or whatever at the Evansville pump station, but it is set up to be that kind of facility.
It really is, and I think that most people, in fact, it's funny you should say that, because the police officers said the same thing. They're like, you want us to we're having a national group come and you want to host it at the sewer pump station? And then they walked in the building and they quickly saw why they wanted to have it there.
So, I mean, you don't have to worry about walking around smelling sewage.
You do not at all. No, you don't.
So what about some other things they can do when they go there? I noticed that there were things like they can watch lab technicians, learn about gardening. I mean,
we are fortunate that the Master Gardeners of Evansville chose to take care of all the plantings that are around the facility. So, and in fact, they do tours, and in fact, this summer they've had kids come and learn about plants and all there at the pump station. You were right. You can see our lab technicians taking hundreds and hundreds of samples of water and testing it for various contaminants and seeing how our cleaning process is working. So all that's going on. It is piped right now to have a splash pad.
Oh my goodness. Well,
So
that'll be something.
That will be something, and I think the city is working to figure out a way to get that to happen. We may need some help from corporate sponsors, but it's a very large space right there on the river.
Well, thank you so much. And if anybody hasn't been there, I would suggest that they go, because it really is neat to see. So thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thanks for joining us to learn more about the new Sunset Pump Station. And thanks for watching WNIN Newsmakers.